Hi, I'm Kelsey. I have worked and volunteered here at Camp Susquehanna for many years. Today, we are learning about pond ecology, which means we are going to get to explore some of the really cool critters that live in our pond. So, if you have them, grab your net and some buckets and come with me. There's a lot of animals that live in our pond. You might think of fish, and we do have fish in our ponds, lots of fish. We also have frogs and salamanders and snails. Most of the animals that live in our pond, though, are very small. They are things like insects or other very small aquatic organisms. So now we're going to look for some critters. If you have a net at home, you can use a net for something like this. The best place to find them is in the muck and in the mud that's in the bottom of the pond. So I'm going to scoop up some muck in my net. All right, empty my net to the bowl to see what we caught. So I have emptied my net here into my bucket, and I've let it sit for a little bit to allow the dirt to settle to the bottom and see my creatures more clearly. Now, when you first look in here, you might just think that it's just a pile of muck and there's nothing cool there. But I want to challenge you that if you take a look around, there's a lot of stuff swimming around in here. Very tiny things. And I'm using this chart here to help me identify some of the things that I find. If you were at home, you might not have this chart with you, but perhaps you could ask an adult to look up things on the internet to help you identify some of the creatures you find. So right away, I'm noticing that there are two different types of nymphs here in the water. The one that's moving very quickly just kind of swam over here. Let me see if I can stir him up a little bit. And this, I am pretty sure, is a mayfly nymph. Over here, there's another very slow-moving nymph that's smaller, kind of crawling away. And a nymph is they're types of insects that are born in the water and then they're maturing. So a nymph is kind of like a teenager stage of life. The insect is maturing, and so it will grow larger and larger versions of the nymph stage until finally it emerges as an adult that can live on land. This would be something like a dragonfly or a mayfly. They all go through a nymph stage of life. One obvious creature who's not moving very much at all is a snail. And let's see, this snail is actually hiding from us right now. So the animal of the snail has pulled its body inside its shell, and the snail has pulled this small hard piece of its shell, it kind of acts like a front door. It's pulled the door of its shell shut because it thinks that somebody has picked it up. So it thinks that I'm probably a bird that's going to eat it for lunch. And of course I'm not, but it's trying to protect itself as much as possible from somebody who might eat it. So here we found a salamander in the pond. And salamanders are amphibians, which means that they live part of their life in the water and also part of their life on land. They start off as eggs in the water and then grow up into tadpoles that are completely aquatic in the water. Later, they will move on to land, and this species, it's the red-spotted salamander, they will actually turn bright orange, and you can find them in the woods. Then later on in life, they will return to the water to live out the rest of their years as an adult in the water. If you ever find an animal like a salamander or a frog and you want to hold them, you want to make sure that you keep your hands wet the whole time. There are oils on your hands that can damage the skin of these animals, so keeping your hands wet really helps to protect the animals and treat them well. So let's review. Today, as we were exploring our pond, we got to look for critters, and we looked a little bit in the muck on the sides of the pond, and we got to find our pond is full of life that's both big and small. Things like salamanders and fish, although we didn't catch any of those, but also really small, tiny little insects and worms and all sorts of things that can be found in the mud in the bottom of the pond. So when you're at home, I encourage you to go out and explore water that might be near you. Maybe a pond or a creek, or maybe even on the edge of a lake or a bigger body of water. But please do this with an adult. If you have a net, you can take it and explore and look for things, but also keep in mind that you can use a bowl as well. So have fun exploring water near you with an adult, and I hope that you enjoy what you find.